Ian, I've been working on a new skill, how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Check it out.
There it is.
Yes, sir.
I have to ask, Mark, did you solve that?
Yeah, can't you tell? I'm trying to hold it strategically. I swear, you won't believe
one
me.
side is done.
This was solved this morning, and then my son got a hold of it, and I saw an hour ago, and I was like, no, they're not going to believe me. But I'm telling you, I didn't
solve it. At one point in time this week, you solved the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, I didn't believe that figure it out. I watched a tutorial. There's this YouTuber, Mike Boyd, and he takes on these challenges and documents his journeys. And one of the things was solving a Rubik's Cube and holding his breath longer and all this stuff. So I bought a Rubik's Cube and solved it.
That is really cool there. What a great concept. I think it's fantastic. I spent a lot of time thinking about new skills I want to learn. I've thought about unicycling. I think we all have at some point. I think last year's skill for me was probably pickleball. Right now I'm like juggling 6 hobbies, 12 passions. There's always way too much going on for me to try to learn new skills.
I know.
I've never solved a Rubik's Cube. I'll be honest. I've never solved one. I don't even own a Rubik's Cube.
I hadn't, and I didn't either. And I think when I was
really
like 12
jealous,
or 14, it was like one of those things I just like, I like playing chess or checkers. I should know a cube, and I just never did. So
yeah,
now I've done it.
So basically,
my goal is to actually like legitimately memorize all the algorithms so I can pick it up and do it. And I would say I'm 2/3 of the way there.
Well, I gotta say, you're an inspiration to our fan base. You can put that in your resume. That can be your stupid human trick. I guess my new skill is podcasting, right? I mean, that's the next frontier.
Yeah, mastered, right?
Still the ways to go on that.
Oh, okay.
I will say though, the one trick or skill I think most about is being able to do a backflip. It's something I've always wanted to do.
You and me both, yeah.
I've never tried it in an arena where I could have ever failed, So
what's the biggest fear? What's preventing you?
What's preventing me is basically just you have to
snapping your neck.
I know it's the neck. I'll be honest. I understand the basic mechanics of it. I think I have enough strength and flexibility, but it's just like you have to just go for it.
From what I've seen on the internet, it's about going up as high as you can, and then there's a tuck involved.
And at some point there's a slight twist, right?
Yeah.
My only real news is that I got new glasses. It was sort of my annual pilgrimage.
They look great.
Every year I go in saying my glasses are fine. I'm not gonna get new glasses. And like clockwork, I end up trying on 3, never more than 3, because at that point you're just gonna have trouble picking one.
Yeah.
I try on 3. I usually ask one person there, is there any of the 3 that are bad? They usually throw out 1, and then it's 2, and I just basically pick.
Yeah, they throw out the cheap one and leave the 2 expensive ones.
The biggest problem is when you go to the glasses store, which is they're not called that,
the eye doctor.
But anyway, you can't see when you put on these glasses.
I know it's the joke, but it's true. Yeah, it's like
so if you go alone, it's difficult.
Yeah.
But anyway,
you look good.
Also, I went to the trampoline park today, and I'm happy to say that I held my own in the 16+ dodgeball arena.
You definitely qualify for 16+. So
when you play 16+ though, at that place, you are playing with 17 and 18 year olds.
Yeah.
There's nobody above 20. So it's me and then people half my age. I think it was really fun though. I don't think there's a lot of things more enjoyable than 15 minutes of dodgeball. I mean, for me, it's kind of one of those ultimate things. Anyway, huge digression there.
Yeah, speaking of sports, right?
So actually, there was a segue buried in there.
Perfect.
Let's learn, Mark, about our 3 topics.
We have the XFL for our sports topic. Finance is going to be the metaverse. It's been requested ad nauseum by one viewer in particular.
At least twice.
Yes, thank you. You know who you are. And a wild card topic is going to be a book or books that changed our worldview. Some heavy hitters tonight. So
I love that. That. Yes, as always. So let's do this. 3, 2, 1. Let's get into it.
They got red hair. They really don't care what they talk about. They just want to have a good time while talking online. Let's get into it.
All right,
sports. Take it away, Mark.
Yes. So the XFL has a partnership agreement with the NFL, the latest iteration of the XFL. The story I saw on ESPN was called it was a petri dish, which
petri dish, right? Yeah,
kind of a strange word, but the XFL made it very clear this is not a development league, right?
They kept saying that.
That's what they stress. Although I don't see how, if you're successful in the XFL, you wouldn't be jumping ship as soon as you're contractually able to get I'm assuming 10 times the pay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where I kind of have issues with it right from the get-go. As with all major sports, there's always like the younger child, there's always the minor leagues, the farm system, developmental league. I don't know how you could possibly have, for lack of a better term, two NFLs. Something has to give, right?
The CFL, yeah.
If you have two elite leagues and you have one batch of elite players, they're not going to be spread 50-50.
No, definitely not. It's not AFC, like, NFC, right?
Right. It's like the old adage: if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks.
And
so I think right from the get-go, there's some troubling.
Well, I wonder how they balance the players who are NFL caliber talent, Antonio Brown, Colin Kaepernick, right?
Sure,
but they're, for lack of a better word, banned or blacklisted from playing in the NFL. Will they go in the XFL? I mean, they could. That'd be a huge draw, right? Or are they going to be like, oh no, you can't play in the NFL, you can't play in the XFL either?
I think in being in keeping with the XFL's kind of showmanship and where that, I think basically they're going to attract at some point the people that have quote unquote flunked out of the NFL, who still have that personality and that Twitter following. So that's an option. Or honestly, the other option is 42 random people, some of them who are 42.
So Tom Brady is going to the XFL.
I mean, I don't want to see a league where it's the starting quarterback is from a Division II school in Vermont, right? I mean, we have these pretty high standards where we're used to seeing the best of the best.
Yeah.
Have you? I don't really know how. Yeah, I mean, how's this going to work?
Have you ever watched the XFL? Any iteration of it? I haven't.
I've probably seen 10 minutes, but I think honestly, the 10 minutes was a documentary about like the parking lot from the first game and like how there was a lot of traffic issues because it was really popular. And then my other big takeaway was that you could like customize your jersey with not your name. So you had like "He Hate Me" or something like that. I remember that being a big calling card.
Maybe that'll be.
This is not the first time the XFL has come into the common parlance, though, right?
Nope. They started in the 2000s or in 2000, right? It was like the wrestling in the NFL and this extreme. It wasn't extreme. That's not what it was.
It was a crossover. It's going to have the wrestling mentality and the huge hits and the no rules.
That failed, right? But then 20 years later, Vince McMahon owns it, wrestling world, right? And he did it again. And I heard it was actually a good product. And then it was like week 4, week 5, the pandemic hit. And
ironic that he was laid low by something totally out of his control.
But then keeping with wrestling, he sold the rights to The Rock and his investment group buddies, apparently. And now we're rebooting it again. So 3rd time's a charm, right?
I mean, it's going to be 3 strikes and you're out, though.
Oh,
I mean, you can look at it both ways, right? I mean, obviously, if you have money and you want to create a sporting league, there is no better sport to emulate or to be part of than football, right? I mean,
I was going to say
about on this podcast before.
Has The Rock ever failed at anything he tried? And the answer is yes. He failed at his football career.
In the NFL, yes. He was drafted, I think, played a handful of games. And obviously, his resume is not going to be an NFL player.
But he's a businessman.
That's not what he's known for. But
a showman.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, my big takeaways here are, the NFL is partnership. They're partnering with the XFL. To me, it's kind of weird that they are willing to do that because they're the biggest sport in the country by a mile.
Yes, by a country.
And they basically, there's text in this article about them developing new rules and trying new things out. But I mean, when you tamper with a quality product like that, half the people are going to be turned off immediately, right?
I think
that's to get 52% of the people.
This is my theory. This is the way that they're basically going to extend the football season. If it's a partnership, they're still getting
I think
benefits,
it's going to be the NFL presented by the XFL. I think that the only way the XFL is going to be able to punch through is if they basically are so intertwined with the NFL that the person watching just thinks this is the NFL part 2. So I don't know if the XFL is going to be okay with that because it sounds like they want to compete as their own entity.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard and
distinct.
Also, I think minor league baseball, tried some new rule changes. They messed around with the mound height or whatever. I don't really think any of these rule changes have typically ever made it into the major league version of the sport.
Maybe some have. At least I could say they tried it at least that way.
Yeah. I guess also the XFL is trying to, and with the NFL trying to, in terms of player safety and development, kind of bring it up a octave. But I mean, the XFL kind of made its proverbial money on like those, like the huge hits and the
that is
getting this like completely knocked
past
out,
image.
blindsided.
Right.
So I mean, that was 20 years ago. I do think you would agree, even Mark, that the player safety and the concussion protocol, and even the way we talk about people getting lit up, I think it has changed. So I think the XFL realizes that, you know, they have to make sure that people are as safe as they can be within the confines of it being football. But I will say this, I will never bet against The Rock. I mean, the last 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, that dude has, whatever he's touched turned to gold.
And I guess we know, surprise, why he was randomly in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that makes sense now, because I mean, when I was watching it with you,
I know, we're like, what?
He's a big name.
It's
but
LA, I guess.
Also, they don't have a person on the field to announce the big game and any other version of the big game.
Yeah.
So, I guess if I have to give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, it's a half thumbs up. I can't see both leagues thriving in equal measure, though. One is always going to play
Definitely
second
not.
fiddle.
Yeah.
And the XFL, if it doesn't allow itself to be a minor league and tries to compete as at an NFL spring,
I think that's their best bet. I don't know why they wouldn't want to do that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the idea of people love candy. Do they want to eat candy for every meal?
They think they do, but you don't.
They think they do, but then they have that third bowl of M&Ms.
You got a hurty tummy.
You know, they might want to tune to something else. So, yeah, I mean, the best players in the XFL they're going to want to play in the NFL, right? I don't know how you're going to keep them in the XFL.
I think so, but time will tell.
Time will tell. Yeah. So moving into finance and business, what do we got here?
The metaverse, Ian, you know my thoughts. I don't get it.
You've been very clear about this.
And we've talked about this ad nauseum. I feel like this is just a giant game online MMO. It's like Second Life. They've already existed for the last 2 or 3 decades.
20 plus years.
Yeah. I am not, I don't get it, I guess. Are you supposed to play on your computer screen? Because then it seems like a video game. Nobody owns VR goggles. You know, I don't want to put my headset on and then like remote fake drive to work commute for 20 minutes to then sit in a virtual meeting when I can just do Zoom.
You don't want to be in a Zoom conference for 2 hours with a sweaty pair of goggles on your head?
I don't know. I don't know. Tell me why I'm wrong. Because
I mostly agree with you, but what I'm going to do first is kind of back up a little bit and give our listeners a little bit of context.
Give me the context.
So
I don't get it.
As Mark alluded to, metaverse, the term itself is not new. 92, Neil Stephenson, a sci-fi writer, he wrote a book called Snow Crash.
So 30 years ago. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The 90s, 92. That was like Ross Perot and like Al Gore presidential stuff, long time ago. So basically, the metaverse is a combination of numerous technological advances, including virtual reality and augmented reality. So VR and AR, you guys have heard those terms before.
Mm-hmm.
So those elements and others are used to create a virtual experience within a virtual universe. Theoretically, in this virtual reality world, users can interact, game, experience things as they would in the real world. But it's not the real world, Mark. It's a virtual reality. It's not.
Don't we already do all that stuff? And haven't we?
We have been doing this. We have been doing this. We've been doing it for a long time. I mean, there's a lot of new examples. Roblox,
so it's a spectrum or a gradient.
Right,
maybe.
Right. I mean, although living in a virtual world may seem futuristic, it's not. As you said, Mark, this is not. We already have a very digitized world.
Yes.
Virtual reality is not new. I mean, if you ask 10 random people what VR stands for, I'm gonna think 7.5 of those 10 people randomly are gonna know what that means, right?
Yes.
I think that the technology is advancing. Sure, no question there. I think 20 years ago, Sims and Second Life and things like that, although they don't look that much better now, if we're being honest, right?
Well, it's it's like diminishing returns, the benefit you get for the computing power. Right. I mean, if you put on a headset, it looks like garbage.
It looks like garbage.
Unless you get like incredibly expensive ones, you know?
And even those, honestly, I mean, I have an Oculus. I got it a while ago. I've used it half a dozen times.
It's a gimmick.
The apps that they have available are virtual roller coaster. I can play skee ball with my head. I mean, there's basically like the game where you can shoot zombies and they come at you. That's about where it ends, though. I mean,
the clicking the pointers is like just too twitchy because you don't realize how much your hands actually shake. You know what I mean? Like your
Yeah.
eyes twitching.
I mean, you and I have been to a virtual reality arcade, VR arcade.
Yeah, I doubt
I mean,
it's
we're not
still open,
troglodytes.
but
We're not ruling this out. It's
we
just
are
that
self-admitted late adopters. Yes,
we're late adopters. It's just the experience so far to me
left me
doesn't present itself in
wanting
a way that I would
much
be
more.
behind it. Yeah. And then you can go to the whole thing where it's like people spending real live money on, you know, virtual real estate that's finite.
So
you know,
again,
just,
I'm gonna like log in and like virtually walk down a street or walk down a mall.
yes,
and
you're
look
gonna
at
basically see
fake clothes
a Nike
through my
store.
computer. I don't get it.
A purse emporium. You're gonna spend money to be right next to a virtual library, a virtual town hall. I don't know. It doesn't. It's interesting to think about as a thought experiment. I mean, obviously, I don't think this is going away, but I also don't think that people want to go to a virtual meeting for 2 hours at work.
Is this just the Matrix? Is it going to be?
It feels very
it gets
Matrix.
So realistic. It's a simulation of real life. In which case, why not just be?
Yeah, I think maybe like I've asked myself recently, like, why now? Why is 2021, 2022? Why is it like metaverse? And, you know, I've kind of come up with a few ideas. I mean,
I have an
maybe,
idea. What's yours?
Maybe the convergence of a bunch of tech stuff finally sort of converging. You have crypto, you have non-fungible tokens, you have companies, Facebook, which
I think
which is all they're throwing in billions of dollars.
I think it's happening because those companies, Facebook, etc., have too much money they don't know what to do with, and so they're completely trying to create a new product line, a new virtual world, just to make more money because they don't know how to. They can't get more ad revenue from their current.
No, that's going to shrink. So yeah, this is just the next frontier for money. I mean, it's just a cash grab.
Isn't it always?
They would say that there are things within the metaverse that will enhance the human experience, but I'm not quite.
There's going to be a lot that also makes it degenerative.
I mean, people are going to spend $300 that they maybe shouldn't have spent on a pair of Air Jordans to put on their avatar in Roblox to, you know, flex on somebody. And okay, that's interesting, I guess, but I mean, they're not real shoes. I mean, they're unique to you, but to me, it just seems like another way for microtransactions to become massive transactions. Really, it's not like you're spending $2 on Angry Birds now. It's thousands of dollars on virtual real estate.
Let's say one nice thing. Can you say something we like?
So I think the one thing that I do appreciate is that the blockchain technology that sort of undermines and hinges upon all these things working and things like that, that's going to be here to stay. I think blockchain is good. It's solid. It's a huge advancement over the previous iteration. I also feel like, though, Mark and I were the guys who predicted the internet was a fad.
This is us in 1990.
Yeah, I mean,
7 or 8 or whatever.
Why don't we? I mean, are we too old to like this?
I kind of hope so. I kind of hope we're wrong. I guess we need to invite a younger guest on, or a more plugged in guest.
I mean, we are late adopters, but I mean, we've tried this stuff. It's not like, and we've researched it, we've experienced it, we've sought out people who have different experiences. But just for me, I'm not super interested in what Zuck's selling here.
Any of the videos, the screenshots, all of it. I just look at it and I just say, what? I don't get it. What is it?
Value add?
What's the draw? What am I doing? Why would I choose to spend my time doing that?
So that's where we're at, I guess, right? Anyway,
let us know why we're wrong. Yeah.
I mean, let us know why we're completely wrong here. But anyway, the wild card topic. Let's do it. Books, worldview, changing.
Yeah. So you asked me, what is a book that changed my life? And normally that's kind of a hard question, but I do have an answer.
You were fast on this one.
A distinct memory when I was in college. I don't remember the class, but I remember it was in a Rood Hall, big lecture room. And for whatever reason, we watched a documentary, you know, that college education, called King Corn. And it was kind of like, oh, here's my learn about the world moment in college. And I was exposed to like big agriculture and the impact on the food system and society and farmers. Mm-hmm. And one of the experts or stars in it is Michael Pollan, who's an author, and he became popular for many books, including The Omnivore's Dilemma, which I'm sure is back on my shelf there somewhere. And great so title. I bought that book and I read it. It was fantastic. It changed my worldview and how I think about food. It was a paradigm shift. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it made a permanent change on my diet, but it made me,
but the awareness, right?
increase my awareness. And there's moments where I do more of what I believe in and moments where I don't, of course. Right. But it 100% affects how I think about how we connect to the world and people and consumers and food and all wrapped up. Right. That was 15 years ago, and you can still see the effect on it.
I can still see the passion
me,
in your
if you
eyes.
know
Yeah,
me, because
twinkle.
some of my interests and my hobbies revolve around food and health and gardening, right? And hopefully I continue to explore that stuff in the future. So that was a very long answer to your question.
No, I think that was great. I mean, I love the idea of the whole paradigm shift, right? It's so interesting to me what kinds of media and material trigger real and substantive change in people.
I would highly recommend it.
It was 15 years ago, and it came up like that. You had the answer immediately. I mean, for me, it's no surprise to see that food ecology means a lot to you. It's a passion of yours, but honestly, I didn't know where the seed was planted. No pun intended, right?
That is where the seed was planted. It was my first world-changing book that I recall.
At the university. I mean, it would sound like it was a movie, but that's awesome.
It's my $40,000 documentary.
$40,000 movie, yeah.
What about you?
So mine is it's called The Wizard of Earthsea. Okay. It's a fantasy novel. Came out in 1968.
I have not actually heard of it, so I'm ashamed.
It's popular, but not. It's one of those things where a lot of people have heard about it, but an equal amount haven't. I guess that makes any sense. Anyway, the story centers on a young mage wizard, named Ged. He displays a great power while still a boy, and joins the school of wizardry. Might ring a bell a little bit. Anyway, where his nature, there's conflict. There's a magical duel. His spell goes awry, as they always do, and he creates this shadow creature that attacks him. And throughout the rest of the book, he seeks to be free of that creature for obvious reasons. Young Ged is not willing to just let it be devoured by it. So basically, you have a world with dragons and humans, sorcerers, wizards. The world is predicated on this sort of balance, like wizards. They balance nature, nurture kind of thing. Anyway, what really stuck with me, though, is there's this really interesting theme in the book where people have real names. And if you know the real name of somebody, you can control them and have power over them to a degree. So like Ged, his first name is Sparrowhawk. That's sort of like the common parlance name, right? And then each child, it has a true name, which they only share with a few close friends, obviously, because of the whole exerting influence over them.
Sounds awesome. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to read it.
I remember being on the couch. I remember like reading this and I'm being like, that's such a cool concept. And so the book progresses, and of course,
are you doing a spoiler here?
Yes. So 1968.
I literally
time has elapsed.
I don't want to hear this, so I'm going to take my headphones out, and you wave at me when you're done. You talk to the audience. I don't want to hear this. Go.
Okay. So basically, young Ged, this shadow creature, he's not able to defeat it in combat until he recognizes that the shadow creature's true name is his own name. And so he merges with this shadow creature, and only then does he sort of mind meld with it, vanquish the evil within, and sort of by naming it himself, he's able to do that. So I'm going to wave to Mark. Oh, he got up to say that I've spoiled it, and he can come back on. But anyway, so basically,
listen. I hope you guys liked that.
Yeah. So I gave the spoiler.
While you were talking, I'm going to interrupt, and I grabbed it. If you can see visually, the Omniverse Dilemma.
People out there, yeah,
read more than once. So continue without your spoilers again.
So basically, like I said before, this book met me where I was. It was
that's the best.
It's basically, it's sort of the first real young adult fantasy book. 1968 is a long time ago. There were kids' books back then, adult books, but Wizard of Earthsea is pretty much known for being one of the first true fantasy young adult books. It's like 200 pages. It's really for young developing readers. And it basically catapulted my reading journey. I've said it before, I'm a huge reader. I try to read constantly. I mostly am able to do that. And so, it kind of was that progression from children's books. It was that bridge to get me to where I am now.
But sometimes you never leave, right? You remember?
Yeah, I actually plan on rereading it. I think it'll hit me very differently. But but just the idea that words have meaning, it's so basic, but as like a 10 or 12-year-old kid, like I hadn't heard that before. That it didn't sink in until I read it from her.
Well, there's definitely some truth to that in the world. So
yeah. So
when you truly know someone,
you can exert your influence on them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the takeaways, man.
Yeah,
this was great.
That's good stuff. I've been moved.
So yeah, I mean, I can tell you're different person now, Mark.
Yes.
So the XFL, I think, is wise to partner with the XFL, or at least try to.
Again.
But to eke out a parallel existence seems like an uphill battle. So time will tell. Third iteration, we'll see what they have to offer. The metaverse. Oh man, the metaverse. Mark and I aren't buying what Zuck is selling just yet, though. I mean,
he can have our data, but he does not have our.
He certainly has that, right? But this is a developing story. It's not a new story, but it has a lot more chapters. So stay tuned for that.
I'm sure we'll talk about it again.
Probably. Books that changed our worldview. I mean, books have the power to change people and greatly expand worldviews. I'm challenging everybody listening to this. Your homework assignment for the week that you'll have to pass in next time we meet is to 3 paragraphs, please. Think about what book has imprinted its DNA into your very core.
Single space, Times New Roman, 12-point font.
I think that you will come up with a great answer. Anyway, another pod in the books, my friend.
Successful. Yes.
Yes. I hope when we meet again, Mark, you have another fun skill to show us, right?
Hopefully I can master my current one here. Yes.
You have one side so far done.
Yes.
So,
and you'll be doing a backflip on the next pod. Is that correct?
I'm going to think about it more for sure.
Yes.
If I do it, you'll certainly hear about it. And
or we could do our next podcast from the dodgeball courts. Perhaps we'll do it that way.
We could. There might be some audio issues, but it'd be visually very stimulating. Anyway, like and subscribe. And if you have a free minute during the course of the week, we'd love to hear from you. Write us a comment.
Leave us a comment. We want to have conversations, not just with each other, but with you guys as well. So that'd be cool.
Yeah. So I think that's a wrap, huh?
Yeah.
This has been another installment of Let's Get Into It.
Perfect timing. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The content in this podcast is not intended to be a research report, financial, or life advice, and does not constitute an endorsement of any product, service, individual, or organization.